There's a moment in Together is Better that hits harder than any lesson we learn alone. The moment when the characters finally realize that the safest place isn't where they started, but where they choose to go together. It's a scene that exposes a truth we often ignore. We stay stuck not because we lack strength, but because we lack someone to move with. And when that scene comes alive, it forces us to confront the fear we hide behind, our fear of stepping into uncertainty without knowing if anyone will walk beside us. But the urgency of that moment is this: life doesn't reward the one who waits. It rewards the one who dares to move, even with shaky hands, trusting that the right people will meet them on the path. That scene isn't just inspiring. It's a reminder that the future belongs to those who refuse to do life alone. The moment courage becomes contagious is the moment a man finally allows himself to be seen, not for what he pretends to be, but for what he truly feels inside. Men are taught to armor up, to appear unshakable, to carry weight silently even when their legs tremble under the load. But in that scene from Together is Better, something shifts. A single act of bravery, simple, raw, unpolished, opens the door for others to step forward too. It's the realization that courage doesn't begin with fearlessness. It begins with someone deciding to act while afraid, giving others permission to do the same. The moment one person moves first is the moment everyone around him recalibrates what's possible. Men often wait for the green light, proof that vulnerability won't be punished, evidence that honesty won't be thrown back in their face. Yet women see a different side of this hesitation. They see the quiet battles men fight, the internal wars they mask with jokes, silence, or distance. And when they witness a man choosing courage, not as a performance but as a truth, it changes the emotional landscape. It invites connection instead of competition, understanding instead of guessing. The moment fear is spoken aloud is the moment it loses its grip on everyone watching. Men don't fear failure as much as they fear disappointing someone they care about. They fear being perceived as weak more than they fear hardship itself. But when a man steps into courage, he signals to other men that they are not alone in that struggle, and he signals to women that what they hope to understand about men is finally being shared. The courage becomes a bridge, one built from honesty instead of pride. The moment someone says, "I'm scared, but I'm stepping forward anyway," is the moment respect deepens on both sides. Women often admire strength, but they connect to sincerity. Men admire bravery, but they follow authenticity. And when both see that courage can be messy, uncertain, and still meaningful, something powerful happens. It becomes easier for men to drop the act and speak from the heart, and it becomes easier for women to trust what they hear. The moment courage spreads are the moment leadership truly begins. Because leadership isn't about being the strongest voice. It's about being the first one willing to move. Staying safe is often the most dangerous choice because it disguises fear as wisdom. Men are conditioned to avoid risk, to calculate every step before moving, and to convince themselves that inaction is strategy. Yet in that moment from Together is Better, the cost of standing still becomes clear. Safety is an illusion. The world moves whether we do or not, and waiting for certainty often leaves men stuck in routines that erode their potential and their purpose. True growth begins not in avoiding danger, but in daring to step forward, even when the outcome is uncertain. The illusion of safety traps men in a loop of self-protection, where comfort replaces courage and convenience replaces connection. Women notice this hesitation, often more acutely than men themselves. They see the dreams deferred, the words unspoken, and the potential left dormant. While men cling to what feels predictable, women sense the urgency of life passing by and the loss of intimacy that comes from emotional withholding. Staying safe may protect against short-term pain, but it slowly erodes trust, depth, and meaningful connection in relationships. Choosing safety over action reinforces a silent narrative that fear is stronger than hope. Men carry invisible weights, responsibilities, expectations, and a need to appear in control, and safety offers a temporary reprieve. But the moment they choose to act despite fear, they disrupt the cycle. They demonstrate that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward anyway. Women respond to this courage not just with admiration, but with alignment. They feel invited into a shared experience of risk and authenticity that deepens bonds and sparks collaboration. The danger of staying safe is compounded by isolation. Men often retreat inward when faced with uncertainty, believing solitude shields them from failure. Yet isolation magnifies doubts and diminishes confidence. In Together is Better, the characters teach us that the true cost of staying safe is missed opportunities for connection, for mentorship, for shared victories. Courage is contagious because it requires leaving the comfort zone and stepping into the unknown with others, creating momentum that safety can never generate. The choice to stay safe masks itself as prudence, but it quietly limits every aspect of life that matters most. Men who never risk are men who never fully experience, and women witness the subtle consequences of that restraint. Safety feels protective, but in truth, it is the slowest path to regret, stagnation, and unfulfilled potential. The real danger lies not in the world outside, but in the world we refuse to engage with. The people who walk with you shape the path beneath you more than any strategy or plan ever could. Men often underestimate the power of who they choose to surround themselves with, believing that independence is the ultimate measure of strength. Yet in Together is Better, the moment they realize that the journey is not meant to be taken alone is transformative. Every step feels lighter, every obstacle more surmountable, and every fear less paralyzing when shared with someone who genuinely believes in the same destination. The path is not created by the road itself. It is created by the people who help carry the weight. Men carry an internal narrative that strength means doing it alone, that asking for help is weakness. This mindset, while protective, often leads to isolation and frustration. Women, however, perceive the invisible threads of connection that men often overlook. They understand that a man's growth is amplified when he allows himself to lean on those who complement his strengths and challenge his limitations. The people he chooses to trust become the framework on which his courage and confidence are built, and in turn, the path they shape together can lead to destinations that would have been unreachable alone. The people who walk with you define not only the speed of progress, but the quality of experience. Men often focus on outcomes, the goal, the achievement, the reward, while overlooking the journey itself. Women tend to notice the energy and emotional climate that surrounds every effort, understanding that the company we keep influences mindset, resilience, and perspective. Shared struggles become lessons, shared victories become motivation, and shared vision becomes the momentum that pushes every participant forward. The path itself is sculpted by the willingness of others to walk beside you, not behind you, not ahead of you, but in step with you. The people who choose to walk with you also mirror back the parts of yourself you might not see. Men often hide doubts, fears, and vulnerabilities, thinking these should be buried. Yet those who truly walk alongside them illuminate what is unspoken. Women recognize this illumination as an invitation to deeper understanding, not judgment. The connections forged in these moments create a network of trust that reshapes the path beneath every step, turning uncertainty into possibility and hesitation into action. Every choice about who to journey with carries weight. Men who attempt the path alone discover that isolation can magnify fear, while women sense the unspoken gaps that form when connections are missing. The path is never just physical or metaphorical. It is emotional, psychological, and relational. And the people who walk with you leave footprints on the very ground that shapes your future. Fear fades when someone says, "I'm with you," because suddenly the weight of uncertainty becomes bearable. Men are often taught to carry fear alone, to mask hesitation with confidence and silence, as if vulnerability is a flaw. But in that pivotal scene from Together is Better, the power of accompaniment is undeniable. One simple declaration of support transforms hesitation into action, isolation into connection, and anxiety into courage. The mind that was frozen by doubt suddenly finds a rhythm, because fear loses its dominance when shared with someone willing to stand beside you. Men struggle with admitting vulnerability, fearing judgment or rejection. They measure themselves by how much they can endure silently, often overlooking that true strength is revealed in connection rather than solitude. Women intuitively understand this dynamic, noticing when a man carries unspoken burdens. When someone steps forward and says, "I'm with you," it creates a psychological permission slip. an opening to release tension, to speak fears aloud, and to take a step forward without feeling exposed. The courage isn't in the absence of fear, it's in the realization that fear is manageable when shared. Fear fades because it thrives in isolation, feeding on imagined consequences and endless what-ifs. Men often overestimate the risks, imagining failure as catastrophic rather than instructive. Women, watching closely, see the potential for growth that fear often obscures. When support is offered, the narrative shifts. Men recognize that their decisions no longer exist in a vacuum. They are part of a shared journey. The presence of someone willing to walk alongside transforms the landscape of possibility, making risks feel calculated, challenges feel surmountable, and choices feel meaningful. Fear fades when accountability is paired with empathy. Men respect courage that is steady, consistent, and grounded in integrity, and women respond to authenticity that aligns words with action. When a person says, "I'm with you," it signals more than loyalty. It signals understanding, alignment, and shared purpose. It allows men to confront uncertainty not as a solitary burden, but as a collaborative endeavor. And it allows women to witness and contribute to the courage that emerges in real time. Fear fades because it is confronted collectively, not individually. Men who embrace support discover that hesitation loses momentum when met with solidarity, while women sense the shift in energy, recognizing the trust and vulnerability being exchanged. Courage does not exist in isolation. It is ignited when someone else chooses to face the unknown alongside you, turning trepidation into a shared force that propels everyone forward. The journey matters more than the destination because it is in the journey that men discover who they truly are. Too often, men are taught to focus on outcomes, titles, achievements, recognition, while the process that shapes character, resilience, and perspective is overlooked. In Together is Better, the scenes that resonate most are not the moments of arrival, but the moments of struggle, laughter, and shared uncertainty along the way. These moments are where growth happens, where bonds are formed, and where courage becomes tangible. Men may think the end result defines them, but the journey is the crucible that reveals their capacity to lead, love, and endure. Men tend to compartmentalize their experiences, believing that success is measured by reaching the finish line. They overlook the subtleties of emotional growth, the quiet victories of persistence, and the lessons embedded in setbacks. Women perceive this tendency and often encourage reflection on the journey itself, recognizing that the depth of experience cannot be rushed or bypassed. The journey challenges men to confront insecurities, to navigate discomfort, and to embrace vulnerability, all of which shape identity more profoundly than any accolade ever could. The journey matters because it exposes the choices that define character. Men are constantly negotiating between fear and action, between comfort and risk, often in silence. Women notice the stakes involved, the internal negotiations that men rarely voice. Every decision made along the path, from speaking truth when it's uncomfortable to extending trust when it's risky, cements the foundation of integrity. The destination may symbolize achievement, but it is the repeated choice to act in alignment with values that produces lasting strength and meaning. The journey matters because connection is cultivated along the way. Men are socialized to prize independence, yet authentic relationships are built in the shared struggle of the journey. Women often serve as mirrors, reflecting courage, patience, and empathy back to men in ways that accelerate personal growth. Shared experiences, failures, and small triumphs create trust and intimacy that no final outcome can replicate. The process teaches men that influence is not exerted from a podium, but earned in moments of collaboration, support, and mutual reliance. The journey matters because it trains the mind to embrace uncertainty, to adapt, and to persevere. Men often fear losing control or appearing vulnerable, but navigating the twists and turns of the journey fosters resilience and perspective. Women observe how this process transforms men, revealing authenticity that the pursuit of a destination alone could never uncover. It is in these unfolding moments, rather than in any endpoint, that courage, empathy, and leadership emerge as living, tangible forces, shaping the men we are becoming and the relationships we sustain. Your future begins the second you stop waiting, because waiting is an act disguised as preparation. Men often convince themselves that the perfect time will come, that conditions must align, or that they must first achieve a level of readiness before taking a leap. This mindset is rooted in a desire for control, a fear of failure, and a habit of self-preservation. In Together is Better, the pivotal moments arrive not when the characters feel fully prepared, but when they decide to move despite uncertainty. The decision to act, even with incomplete information or shaky confidence, ignites momentum, reshapes perspective, and opens doors that waiting could never unlock. Men are socialized to delay vulnerability and postpone decisive action, believing that patience equals prudence. Yet, women often notice the costs of this waiting: opportunities missed, connections left unexplored, and moments of intimacy and growth deferred. Men wait for the signal that everything is safe, but life rarely issues guarantee. The act of stepping forward, even when unsure, is a declaration that fear will not dictate choices. It is the acknowledgement that uncertainty is inevitable, but action transforms potential into reality. The second a man stops waiting, he reclaims agency over his path and invites the world to meet him where he chooses to stand. Your future begins the moment you stop waiting, because waiting amplifies doubt and diminishes courage. Men internalize a constant tension between expectation and fear, imagining the worst-case scenario while undervaluing the opportunity that exists in the present. Women perceive this tension and often intuitively provide guidance or reassurance, yet the choice to act must come from the man himself. Once he decides to engage actively rather than passively, the energy of initiative replaces hesitation. Fear, once paralyzing, becomes a manageable companion rather than a ruler. And the path forward becomes visible in ways it never was while waiting. Stopping waiting is also a radical act of trust. Men often struggle with trust. Trust in themselves, in their decisions, in the people around them. Women, on the other hand, frequently sense the subtle barriers that waiting erects between intention and action. When a man moves forward without waiting for perfect alignment, he models confidence and vulnerability simultaneously. He demonstrates that readiness is less about external circumstances and more about internal resolve. The act of stepping into action invites collaboration, loyalty, and reciprocity, revealing allies who share vision, values, and purpose. Your future begins the second you stop waiting, because action breeds clarity, momentum, and resilience. Men discover through movement that uncertainty is not a reason to hesitate, but an invitation to engage. Women witness the transformation that occurs when patience shifts into purpose-driven initiative, observing that men become more present, more accountable, and more connected. The power lies not in meticulous preparation or careful calculation, but in the willingness to commit, to step forward, and to trust that the path will reveal itself in the doing. Every second spent waiting is a second surrendered to doubt and inertia. Men learn that time itself will not grant readiness, but action creates readiness. Women notice that the moment men take responsibility for movement, they awaken potential, not just for themselves, but for everyone who journeys with them. By deciding to move, to risk, and to engage, men claim their future actively, shifting from passive observers to intentional creators of the life and relationships they desire.